It looked like you were poised for something.
What you got over there?
A phone. I didn't have anything like locked and loaded to say.
Oh, okay.
If that's what you mean.
We're recording. So.
Yeah, that's why I went to speak in position.
What's everybody doing? Looking at your phone. What's everybody doing right now?
So Hannah was talking about this at the table this morning, and I started looking at the Christian sex toy stores.
Oh no!
Oh.
And I wanted to dunk on them, but they're not. They're fine. They use the term marital aid to great use.
I don't like that.
Which is a real weird kind of old fashioned term, but I guess it makes sense in the
Question.
context. But,
What's their selection of magic wands like? Do they have the cordless one? Mine broke.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to go that deep. I'm not going to.
You're not going to go that deep at the sex toy store.
At the Christian sex toy store.
Yeah, it seems like a nice
they don't have all those
concept. It was
crazy
just
ones. They don't go that deep.
presented in an odd way. Like, here's a safe place that you can go and get your marital aids.
Yeah, one of them is marrydance.com.
Married dance? Like
Married.
Oh, married.
Dance.com.
Do you have to be married to use them?
Yeah.
One of them is just Christian.
Otherwise, you're
love toys.
sinning.
They don't work if you're not?
Yeah, they automatically have a detector.
They just get shrivelly.
This was the name that I
small.
like. This is a pretty sweet name. CovenantSpice.com. There are a whole bunch of these. It's really kind of surprising how many of them there are.
Oh, I really hope there are sex toy parties for Christian people.
What was that thing called? Pure Romance? Is
Yeah,
that what that
it's
was
still
called?
around. I saw a Pure Romance mobile.
We all did. We were all
Yeah, we were in
literally
the car
all of us
together.
were in the car together when that happened.
Were we? Where were we
Yes.
going?
It was
we
last
overtook
weekend when
it
we were
and
driving
then
out in the woods.
Yeah.
Oh.
it passed
Yeah, it was
us
on the interstate.
again.
Yeah.
Oh.
And there was a child, with the giant Pure Romance sticker on the back. There was a child in the back seat watching videos. It was pretty awesome.
There's nothing
That
wrong with
name-
sex or sex toys.
Yeah, they show up at like family-friendly events
Mhm.
all
Oh, do they
over
really?
the time. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
confusing to me.
Mhm.
I've never seen that.
And they have a lot of edible products. Like
As
a lot
in,
of
edible underwear?
as in like edible lubes and dusts
right,
and
okay.
things like that. People have like put edible honey dust on me and things like that. It's weird.
Gnarly.
Dust?
Dust. It's like a.
Angel
Is it
dust,
just
dude.
like this-
PCP.
Oh, okay.
No.
Flavoring on you?
It's
Or
basically
is
like dehydrated stuff.
PCP.
It's not PCP. Nobody has put
You want that
PCP on my
dust.
body.
I'm not sure if that's Christian friendly.
Oh, no, we're talking about the Pure Romance
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Wait, PCP is not Christian friendly?
Right.
I'm
Or
gonna
is
have
it
to
only
go
within
ahead
the
and
bounds of marriage?
Who wants to read an
PCP.
intro?
PCP only within the bounds of marriage. PCP.
I can't read this and also look into this mic.
That's fair.
I also can't make eye contact with Erik at all.
Eye contact.
Eye contact with
Not
Erik.
with that attitude.
Oh,
In Chicago.
yeah. Welcome to the Pod Cultcast, where we talk about life, love, learning, and libido, and share our journey through polyamory and kink. I'm Max.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Chastain.
And I'm Erik.
Intro music.
Oh, yeah, that's where the intro music goes.
I think Erik should do the disclaimer because he says this.
Yeah, I'll get
Like
it right
with
one day.
this is CNN.
This is a
CNN.
podcast.
James Earl Jones style?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Should I read the disclaimer as James Earl Jones?
No. I think that's a real bad idea.
Okay, so I'm listening to The Hunt for Red October.
Is that what you're listening to?
Yes.
Good grief.
So, The Hunt for Red October is my favorite movie, and my mom read all of the Jack Ryan books when I was younger. And what the fuck is the author's name?
Tom Clancy.
Tom Clancy spoke at my boarding school's graduation the year I would have graduated there if I had stayed enrolled there, but I did not. I have like a weird Tom Clancy is somehow entwined in my youth experience, and The Hunt for Red October is my favorite movie. So, and that one time I had sex with an XO from a submarine, and that made me
From
really
the Dallas,
excited.
in fact.
From the Dallas, yeah. Yeah, so that was really, really exciting. Oh, wait, should we edit that out?
I mean,
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
It's fine.
We'll bleep it. I'll just bleep it, and that'll
His
make it really
swamp
exciting.
monster wife.
And a swamp monster. Okay, so we thought she was a mermaid. It turns out she was just a swamp monster. So I've been listening to, I started reading the book, but reading is difficult for me. I'm good. Fuck you all. I have a disease where screen time can be challenging, so I can't use my phones or screens for too long. And so I've been listening to the book and reading intermittently because it has a thing where you can do that. Anyway, so the guy doing the thing tries to do a little bit of a James Earl Jones, and it cracks me up. So anytime they do the Greer part, like he gets real deep and does the James Earl Jones inflections, and it's very
What's
funny.
the name of the guy in that became a senator or whatever? Shit.
I don't know,
The like Southern guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he
Never
was like in the war
actually
room or
watched it.
something. And that I know what you're talking about.
He was the aircraft carrier
Yeah,
captain.
yeah. I know exactly.
I'm telling you, son, Ruskies don't take a shit without orders.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know his name. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric's looking it up
Eric
right
is
now.
looking it up.
All right. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
This all makes sense. Because the other day you came into the kitchen, I think, and said, I thought y'all were laughing at me for listening to Red October. And I just thought you had the movie playing in the background. I hadn't heard any of it. And I was like, what a weird thing.
I've been dreaming very vividly lately. And this morning I fell back to sleep while listening to my book. And so I thought that I had already gotten up, and I apparently had not. So I dreamed that when I walked into the kitchen, you guys were laughing about me listening to The Hunt for Red October. But
You were
apparently
talking about Tim Curry, correct?
No.
Oh.
Tim Curry's on the ship.
What are you doing? Oh yeah, Tim Curry's one of the Russians. I
He's
forgot
one of
that.
the Russians.
Let them sing.
He's the aircraft carrier captain. I can't remember the name of the character right now. I'm not good with names or dates or facts or figures or information, really.
Or screens.
Or screens. Shut up, Hannah.
Oh, Fred Thompson.
Fred Thompson.
Right.
Yeah.
Did he become a senator? Is that what he was?
He ran for president.
Yeah, Fred Thompson.
Was he senator?
I don't know.
He's from Tennessee. I don't remember what he was.
He was also in Law and Order for a long time.
Yeah, for a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah.
I mean, he was in all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was he a Republican? Because if he's Republican, I
Yeah,
don't
he's
like him
definitely
now.
a Republican.
All right, I don't like him. Fucked Fred Thompson. Anyway,
And you don't need to. He's dead.
Yeah.
well, fuck Fred Thompson's corpse then.
Oh.
Yeah.
Halloween episode, everybody.
Ooh, spooky. Okay, so what are we talking today? Oh, are we doing the Sprankle? We're doing the Sprankle meme.
He was a senator.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
we're
right.
doing the Sprankle meme. Sprinkle,
Sprankle.
sprinkle. So a couple of weeks ago now, I think it's been about 2 weeks, we saw this meme on the interwebs by Erik Sprankle,
Sprankle.
Sidey, Dr. Sprankle on Twitter. Are you going to just keep sprankling?
Sprankle.
Sprankle. We saw this meme, and it listed some stuff that we felt like we should all know, and Dr. Sprankle said that we felt like we should know. Actually, you should follow Dr. Sprankle on Twitter. Dr. Sprankle has some pretty good opinions. Erik shared with me an opinion that Dr. Sprankle has about sex workers, how there's really no difference between sex workers and coal miners. They're both just selling their bodies. Yeah, you should follow at Dr. Sprankle on Twitter.
In all fairness, he didn't say that there was no difference, but he made a good direct comparison.
Okay, well then
And
my
about
opinion
more.
is that there's no difference. You're just selling your body.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing with that.
There were a lot of people that wanted to point out the differences, though, in all of the responses.
Well, those people are wrong.
I think Max has something to say.
I just looked this up because I didn't know, and I want to say this. Dr. Erik Sprankle is an associate professor of clinical psychology and co-director of the sexual studies program at Minnesota State University. He is also a licensed psychologist in the state of Minnesota and an ASECT certified sex therapist affiliated with the Minnesota Sexual Health Institute. That's AASECT.
The mac and cheese is done.
I'm making a burrito bake. That's the oven heating up. The oven is heating up now. That's cool. I'm glad that he's a sex psychologist. That makes me happy. I enjoy. They tend to be jovial types of people.
Which one of us found this first, by the by? Because it
I
just
did.
showed up one morning
I
on
did.
my phone.
Magic.
I did. Or Hannah did. One of us did. Hannah and I are the internety people. Hannah's
More
young.
than I am, yeah, sure.
Hannah's young and I'm bored. So
Together we are unstoppable.
I have a lot of time on my hands and Hannah's young. So yes, we are. We're unstoppable. High five. Oh, we
We
missed.
failed. time.
Okay, one more
That
time.
was a high 2.
Yay!
It was even kind of on mic. Well done.
So the meme from Dr. Sprankle, and we shared it on our Instagram, and if you're not following us on Instagram, you absolutely should, because you get to see premium content such as pictures of the pod dog and also our weird pod ventures, when we like go eat food together and stuff.
And what's that Instagram handle?
That's at cult with a V, CVLT with a V. Dr. Sprankle said, make it a weekend goal to learn the difference between vulvas and vaginas, sperm and semen, decriminalization and legalization, sex assigned at birth and gender, ethical non-monogamy and cheating, abstinence education and real education, BDSM, and being a shitty abusive partner. Pretty much most of these I have a general idea on. I think we all have a general idea on, but they weren't all things that I felt like I could sit down and have an educated, knowledgeable, articulate conversation about. So I thought that it would be fun for us to look things up while we're sitting here talking, talk about what we do and don't know, and make sure that when we leave this episode, and everybody who listens to this episode, everybody has a good working knowledge of each of these things. Does that sound good to everybody? Mm-hmm. Should we disclaim?
This is a podcast where we talk about love and relationships, sex and kink, and polyam issues, and whatever else comes up while we talk about these things. We will probably also touch on stuff like abuse and violence and mental health challenges. These can be difficult topics, so keep that in mind moving ahead.
Good job.
I'm Max. Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Chastain. Oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
Did that part.
Oh, sorry.
You did a good job. I'm proud of you.
Moving on.
Moving ahead.
Moving whose head? What's that? A head? Halloween
Oh, wait,
episode.
still doing Halloween stuff? Cool.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
Yeah, tis the season. We have the Halloween party coming up.
There's the head of a snake right
Max.
by my foot.
Before we get into this, can we do some announcements? Announcements.
Okay,
What
go
you
ahead.
got?
What you got?
Okay.
You didn't clue us into this. So
Yeah.
we don't know what we're
all
announcing.
surprised.
Well, okay. Well, so first I want to take a second to thank our Patreon patrons, our cult bursers, Chip and Jenny, for supporting us and making it possible for us to keep our podcast available indefinitely so that you can listen to all of our episodes forever out there in the internetosphere. So that's pretty awesome. And it also makes it possible for us to put out more content every month. So that's really, really cool. And we have a listener survey coming up right now. And Max, I made you do work the other day and record a thing to tell people about the survey and all that stuff. And I gave you the wrong URL. So, yeah. So we've got to just do it again. So I thought I'd just do an announcement. So we have a listener survey going on. We would love your feedback on what we are doing right, what we could do better at. And so if you would go to podcultcast.com/survey 2019 and give us your feedback, take about 10 minutes or so. We would love to hear from you and just let us know what's up. Also, fresh announcement. We have a book from my pal A.D. Flocks, and it just got in this weekend. And I'm really, really excited about it. It's called Disrupting the Bystander, and we're going to do it for our Cultcast Media Club, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast feed for all of our supporters. And it's a book about the Me Too movement and how to support people who have been assaulted and how to deal with it when your friends are the people who have committed assault. So I think it's a good thing for us to read and talk about. So we're going to do that for November.
Sounds great.
Does anybody else have any announcements?
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, cool. Sprankle.
Sprankle. What's the first item?
The first item is, I just put my phone down.
It's the one we already covered because we read the vagina book.
We did read the vagina book.
It's true.
Vulvas versus vaginas. The vagina is the inside part. The vulva is the outside part. Boom, you got knowledged.
All right, so we're done with that. Move on to the next point.
Next.
This is going to be a short episode.
Sperm and semen. Okay, gentlemen, I feel like you learned a lot more about this in sex class than I did, so.
Really?
I got semen. I got no sperm.
Why? What
Because I had a
happened?
vasectomy.
Are you sure about that? Have you gone for your recent,
Did
jizz
it
in a
grow
cup?
back?
So should I tell the story about that?
Yeah.
Around the time that I was getting my vasectomy, and after I got my
Your
vasectomy,
mastectomy?
my vasectomy, and after I got my vasectomy, every dude on the job site who I either told directly or sort of heard about it or whatever came up to me and said, like, hey, man, my buddy had a vasectomy, and 6 months later, his wife was pregnant. You got to watch out, man. It's going to grow back. So when I went to, like, my follow-up to the surgeon, and I said, hey, man, like, every dude on the job site has been saying this to me, his response was, no, I really mess stuff up down there.
Wait, what? That's what you want to hear from a
my
medical
tubes aren't
professional.
growing back because he really messed stuff up down there.
Or they're going back and it's now like an of mice and men situation down there.
Like,
In what
Lenny,
manner?
and have you ever read of Mice and
Yeah.
Men? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Petting them too hard or what? Like,
It made sense in my head.
All right,
Let's
so
just move
sperm is
along.
the part that makes babies, and semen is the stuff that carries the sperm.
and
Okay.
yeah, that's about it.
Does everybody know that? Hannah, did you know that?
I did know that, but this led to another question, which is, what is the other stuff that makes
Pre-cum?
up most of the ejaculate? Like,
Oh.
what is it made of? And
Yeah, what is ejaculate made of?
Mucus.
missing mucus.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a sneeze.
It's essentially mucus.
Yeah, pre-cum tastes like
it is a
sneeze to me.
sneeze.
Yeah.
So,
It's a,
all of the, like, stuff about protein and whatnot that people say about, swallowing cum, not true. It's basically snot.
So I'm going to read definitions now just so that we're actually educating people.
Okay.
Semen, also known as seminal fluid, is an organic fluid that may contain spermatozoa, which are sperm. It is secreted by the gonads, or the sexual glands, and other sexual organs of the male hermaphroditic animals, and can fertilize female ova. It's not telling me what's in it. Come on, Google, do better. Let's see. And sperm is the microscopic male reproductive cell. Semen has no such characteristic other than nourishing the sperm cells and keeping them motile.
So it is nourishing. That's
Uh-huh.
what you're telling me.
So,
Okay.
so semen is like lube for sperm.
Well, it's a conduit. It's a carrier.
yeah.
It's not really lube. It doesn't lubricate it.
No,
Well, it keeps them-
it evolves.
It keeps them
not
motile.
evolves. It enables them to move greater distances than they would on their own
Yeah.
in a quick.
Well, then would you say that it lubricates their path?
No. That's not
No,
the
it
same
carries. It is the path. Like it's like a car, and then they
I'm
take
gonna
the
believe
car
what I believe.
to your destination. But sometimes parking's bad, and you got to walk, and that's how they go the rest of the way. Oh man.
Oh, that's
Thanks
fun.
everyone for quieting down and letting me keep on going.
Yeah,
Really.
that was brilliant.
You're
Thank you. Brill.
The next point is the difference between decriminalization and legalization.
So, as our resident pothead,
Who's that now?
you.
Oh.
What are dank vapes?
What are dank vapes?
I don't really know because I'm so behind on the parlance of things.
Okay, so
It's relative, I guess.
what's dank?
So,
Usually a musty quality of something,
Okay.
implying
Okay. So, what would be a musty vape?
probably a bad idea. This isn't what we were talking
what are
about.
we
So-
doing right
so-
now?
So, what would be a dank vulva?
Dude.
Let's
a musty
U-turn for a
vulva.
while.
I know that girl.
You know musty vulva? How's she doing?
Good girl. Don't let her hold your money, though. All right. Difference between decriminalization and legalization. I mean, it's, it's in the words, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
decriminalization is
It's not legalized, but
right,
it's
but you're
not prioritized.
Well, can we talk? I think this is a really big deal, though, because I am not the one to talk about this because I don't think I know enough. But here's what I do know: I'm going to talk
But
about
I'm going to anyway.
But I'm
so
going
it's
to
fine.
anyway.
Uh-huh.
Are we ready? So, well, you didn't pick up the mic when I handed it to you. So here we go.
Because you started talking about musty vulvas.
There's only one musty vulva.
There can be only one musty vulva. Decriminalization is changing laws so that people don't go to jail for possession of drugs
Or sex work.
or sex work.
I mean, I think probably in the context of this tweet, considering that everything else is about.
Yes.
I think it's about
There's-
sex work and drugs. I mean, it's about pot and drugs.
Well, it's just those terms. It can be applied to any of them.
Well, but I'm trying to give it a context so that I think that most people are probably not sex workers, but most people are going to be like, okay, I've got a friend.
Yes, most people are not sex workers.
There are more people that
More
are not
people
sex
are going to have
workers than that
experience
are.
with like their friend who smokes pot, right? So
That would be a much more common one.
Exactly. So more people are going to have experience with their friend who smokes pot who might have gotten pulled and like, oh, they got caught with some pot and that's illegal and they got, jail time or they got a ticket or they got a slap on the wrist or whatever. So if we decriminalize it, then it is not illegal to have it in your car, right? If we...
No, it is. If it's decriminalized, it is still illegal. And yet, it is not prioritized. So it's kind
Okay,
of
see, and this is-
Well, now I'm going to disagree with you. And we're going to look it up in a minute so we give actual good information.
Well, I'm talking
Hannah, why
about
don't you
what
go ahead
I...
and look
I'm
up
talking
an
about
actual
what I know.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so don't interrupt me.
Okay.
So, decriminalization is like, it is not treated as a crime, so you're not going to go to jail. That is what my take on these two terms is. I'm just saying what I know now. I'm not saying I'm right.
Right.
So, and legalization would be that it would be perfectly legal, that there would be a law that says it is okay for you to have it in the car. Decriminalization is that there would be no law that says you can't have it. That's what I think it means.
I agree with that. I agree with those definitions.
Okay. And so I don't know that to be correct. That is just me going by what the
Right.
words
We're
mean.
looking up the actual definition
Okay,
now.
so
but-
Hannah's going to look it up.
Right.
So, Eric, what do you think it means? Go.
I said it. Asked and answered. It was...
Eric is saying that it's still technically illegal, but it is not prosecuted,
Yes.
is what decriminalization is.
In other words, if by decriminalization, it is still illegal in the sense that if it were no longer illegal, then it would be legal, and that is not how law works.
Yeah, there's a principle generally called officer's discretion, which means that sometimes police officers
That would
choose
probably that would be the
not to pursue something if they just don't think it's worthwhile to pursue it at the time.
exactly, and that would be a very, very common and light form of decriminalization.
All right, so y'all ready to hear?
Yes,
What have
Hannah.
we got, Hannah?
Hannah, tell us what the truth is.
Decriminalization is the action or process of ceasing to treat something as illegal or as a criminal offense. And in the context of drug decriminalization, usually that means removing the penalties, but does not necessarily change the legality of a certain action. Does that sound like what everyone was?
So we're going to say then that if we're talking about sex work, it would be the removal of penalties for doing sex work, but not removing a law that says you cannot be a sex worker.
Right.
You cannot perform sex work.
Right.
Whereas decriminalization would be totally taking the laws off the books.
Right.
Yeah, removing the prohibition, not just
But
the
not making it
consequences.
illegal.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
creating a new law that says you may smoke weed. It is now the law of the land.
Hi, this is Chastain from the Pod Cultcast. We'd like to take a second to thank our Patreon patrons, our cult bursars, Jenny and Chip. They're making it possible for us to keep our episodes available indefinitely and also produce more content every month. Our patrons get exclusive access to episodes of the Cultcast Media Club, where we talk about books, movies, basically anything that has something to do with kink or polyamory. If you'd like to support us, go to www.patreon.com/podpodcultcast. Remember, that's cult with a V. For just $1 a month, you get access to our exclusive RSS feed and a little bit of love from our Captain Max. Thank you so much for believing in us. Okay, well, Eric gets back to his seat. We were rudely interrupted by me putting cheese on our burrito bake for dinner. We just found out, this just in, Dr. Sprankle is totally goth, y'all.
I don't like this guy anymore.
Oh, no.
Okay, so in the middle of... In the middle of this, I remembered that I read this tweet this morning from someone named Yevgenia, who says, "For every uninformed person who shouts, 'Legalize and regulate prostitution,' there is a sex worker sharpening her nails and muttering, 'We want decriminalization. Just fucking listen to us for once.'"
Yeah.
Yes.
And that person is at Yevgenia with a 3 in the middle of it. You can figure it out. Whose Twitter bio is interesting. It says, "Russian mobster's daughter turned dominatrix. Business consultant."
Well, I was a dominatrix / life coach, so we all have our little paths we take.
Hold on.
Another difference that I think for me with decriminalization, that I think with decriminalization versus legalization for me, I think means moving forward it's legal, but it doesn't get all the people out of jail who've been arrested for it.
Yes.
Right. Which is what California did with their marijuana laws.
Right. So it's great and all,
but records and stuff.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that's a big part of it. And doesn't decriminalization do that?
Not necessarily.
But it should.
But it could.
It could. Okay.
Yeah, could. Yeah.
One of the reasons that this is important to me is because I am a retired sex worker, and I think that sex workers' rights are important, and I think that sex work should be legal. And then I'm against sex trafficking, which is non-consensual sex work. Mm-hmm. And I also think that pot should be legalized because I don't see that it is harmful in any way. And I think that others in this room might agree with me.
Smoke weed.
I mean, it would make things easier, sure.
Really? You don't have any strong opinions about pot legalization?
Do I have to?
No, you don't.
Are you typecasting me?
No, I'm not. I'm honestly shocked.
No, I think that it's silly that it is illegal, and decriminalization is a good stepping stone towards legalization, but it is not the same thing. Yeah, there should be a lot of other things that shouldn't be illegal as well.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But there are plenty of people who, for good reason, would rather have decriminalization on its own rather than legalization,
right.
Which I think is
Indeed.
what, that tweet was referring to.
Yeah.
I just will get right up on it like this.
Okay. Yeah.
I generally I don't look at you that often when I'm speaking. I can be like this.
You don't have to ever look at me again if you want.
Well, you don't need to take it to that kind of place. Come on.
I'm playing.
What's up, Lumpy?
Oh, don't call him Lumpy.
I'm doing fine.
Lumpy, wasn't that the nickname of, wasn't that what she called Bill Murray's character in
Scrooge.
In Scrooge, yeah. Okay.
Because she hit him with a door the first time she met him and gave him a lump
on
his head.
Yeah. Next up, Sprankle.
Sprankle.
Sex assigned at birth and gender. Do we know the difference? And can we talk about it in an informed way?
I cannot. This is something I need a lot of help with. I mean, I know the difference.
Yes.
I don't know how to articulate it. There are also a lot of things I don't know. I read these social media statements about how many genders there are and what all of that means scientifically, and I go, hell yeah, but I don't really know what it means.
When you put the talk about it in an informed way qualifier, I think it knocked me out.
Hannah?
You are not alone. I heard a story that was compassionate and well-intentioned on a local news station just late last week that used the term born female.
Do you want to dunk on that station? Dunk on it.
No, I don't want to dunk on that station because I think that my only point was this is really widespread misunderstanding about the right way to talk about this. Mm-hmm. This is a super important one. So
I'm going to give my understanding and then maybe we can see what wrong. And if anybody else wants to jump in with what their understanding is and then see how right or wrong we are.
Well, okay. So my understanding is...
Okay, cool.
You're born... You have a thing that looks like what people associate with male genitalia, and they say you're a boy. That's assigned at birth.
Mm-hmm.
Or not that.
Well, yeah, clearly, but
so it's either boy or not boy. This is what you're telling me?
No.
I said that the informed qualifier knocked me out. That was a joke.
So you're not a boy?
No.
Are you a man?
This is no. I'm not. No, we are not telling you that you are assigned boy or not a boy. That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It was an example.
I know. So that is also my understanding
Right.
that sexing, like you would sex an animal, you would look at the genitals on that animal and say this is a male of the species or a female of the species. And then gender, in my understanding, is an identity, and gender can be anything of a wide variety of a spectrum. Gender is something that is assumed based on genitalia, and it is socialized into people, typically by their families, but that individual has a right to choose their gender based on how they feel, which could be wildly wrong.
No, I think that's right. Planned Parenthood has a really succinct summary, and they actually divide out gender identity from gender as a construct. So sex is a label.
Right.
Male or female, that a doctor assigns you based on genitals you're born with and the chromosomes that you have, and that is what goes on your birth certificate.
Right.
And gender is a social and legal status. It's a set of expectations from society about behaviors, characteristics, and thoughts, and it varies by culture. The standards differ for how people should behave, and this is also generally male or female. But instead of being about body parts, it's about how you're expected to act because of your sex.
Okay. Awesome.
And then gender identity is how you feel inside and how you express your gender through your own clothing, behavior, personal appearance. And it's a feeling that begins very early in life.
Okay.
So you said something about choose.
Well,
Is choose a problematic word? Like,
so
should we not think of it as-
what I mean is, I feel this way. If I have to fill something out on a form, I'm going to choose what feels right for me. That's what I meant.
Okay.
This is who I am. I'm not saying like I just choose to be.
Right.
That was not how I meant it. So
But you get to choose your expression.
you get to choose how you express your gender.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, does this expression have to be outward?
No.
Well, I thought that might have been a good jumping off point for you to say more than just no.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, not in the least. I don't think so. I think that so I am a cisgendered female identifying woman. And I am very femme, and I embrace a very femme aesthetic, and I choose to express my gender orientation or gender identity in a very, 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 like, hyper feminine way. I like girly girl bullshit.
Oh boy, do you.
Yeah, I do. I was not always like this. I was very much a tomboy growing up. I wore Birkenstocks with socks, big, thick wool socks, and boxer shorts, and like the same t-shirt every day. And it wasn't until high school that I started wearing heels, but it was in the 90s, so it still wasn't that great. And it wasn't until I was about 30 that I really got into makeup.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's even in the time that we've been together.
Yeah.
Like you've really embraced a different kind of expression of yourself.
Yeah. I wore men's shirts and ties, and I wore a lot of men's sweaters growing up, and I had a very, very kind of gender neutral. The problem that I had growing up was that I have very large breasts, so I couldn't be as like androgynous as I felt sometimes. And, you know, I'm autistic, which I've said before a million times. And I think that's kind of part and parcel of the autistic person's experience, is there is a lot of androgyny that we experience. And a lot of, you know, like a big journey in finding out who we are sexually and stuff like that. So, a lot of my behaviors are modeling behaviors, and I started getting into makeup because there was a girl that I liked. and then I realized, like, oh, well, this is actually something I enjoy and something that I'm very good at. So I like the way I look. I'm going to just keep doing this because I like the way I look. And that was how my gender expression. Hannah, you have like a kind of a look and like a thing that you go for. You want to talk about your gender identity stuff?
Sure. Reading through this and talking about how, people easily confuse sex versus gender. I know that I have struggled with that because of being raised in a way that there were a lot of gender expectations that were really routinely like policed and enforced. And a lot of that was negative towards women. So growing up, I always kind of planned that I was going to grow up to be a man because they had all of the opportunities and resources in the world. And plus, women were things like frivolous and vain and unintelligent in certain ways that were important to me. And so it was, as a teenager, it got to be really confusing. Like, wait, but I'm a woman. And I don't identify with any of these things. So, like, what needs to happen for me to feel at home in being a woman? And of course, I mean, that period of self-discovery can go so many ways for so many people. But for me, I really just embraced, breaking out of what those expectations were and making it my own thing, which has been awesome. Yeah.
I identify with that really, really strongly. I hated my gender for such a long time because women were not smart. Women could not be whatever, and none of that's true.
No, of course not. But I remember at like 12 or 13 trying to be a bro with my friends and making some kind of comment about you girls or blah, blah, blah. And my friend who I admired just looked like down at me and said, but you're a girl. And I was so devastated. I was like, but not like that.
Yeah,
like,
not
like
those
other girls.
I'm not one of those girls. Like, I don't think that people realize like how strongly like women are just taught to hate their own gender by the world from a young age. Like, I feel a little teary right now hearing you say that because it's something we don't talk about, and that's wow. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Thanks. And we don't mean to. And I know that my family didn't. They embraced and adored and a little bit, idolized femininity. But the way that they talked about women and the characteristics and like the gender traits that we were supposed to have did not resonate with me at all. And it alienated me from the whole idea.
Yep. Same here. And I didn't have female friends until I was much older. I had a female friend in high school, but it was, but she was also a little bit older and she had an apartment that I could go hang out with. And my mom would like buy me wine coolers and I could go drink wine coolers at her apartment. So that was, it was Winterberry, Bartles and James. So I could go over there and drink wine coolers. So, but it wasn't until my 30s that I actually had female friends and actually could feel like I could trust women, form a strong bond with them and so forth. Like, I hated my gender. Okay. Moving on.
We're going to post this article from Planned Parenthood because it goes into a whole lot more detail about what all the labels mean and what people mean versus what is the truth about biological sex, etc.
Awesome. So. If any of the resources you're finding, you just post them in our little group chat or what have you, and I'll also make sure that we put everything in the show notes. I'll make sure that we put some good resources in the show notes for all of the Sprankle answers so that if you want to go in depth and make sure that you can talk about these things in an informed way, as we may or may not be doing right now.
I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not. But that's part of the...
But this is who you are as a poor person.
As a poor person?
No, as a person. I just stuttered.
Oh, what the fuck?
Oh, you know, Eric, he's poor.
I mean, yeah, but you don't have to say it like that.
The next bullet point from Hot Topic Goth Erik Sprankle
He's a baby bat.
is ethical non-monogamy versus cheating, which, for information and resources on these topics, please listen to the previous 10 or whatever episodes of this podcast.
However many episodes.
Can you cheat in polyamory?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we discussed that somewhere along the way, but we
Asked
can
and
certainly
answered.
discuss it again. You know, any breach of trust, any break of a contract, any...
Yeah, and it doesn't have to do... You can cheat at anything. You can cheat at everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is essentially cheating. And as I've said before, I have a weird relationship with the word cheating. I think probably infidelity is a better word.
Well, I have a weird relationship with the whole ethical non-monogamy thing. It's just non-monogamy. Like,
Right.
any relationship should be ethical. Like, any relationship should involve consent and such.
Yeah, and, you know, I tend to say ethical non-monogamy over polyamory because I have weird relationship with identifying as polyamorous.
Yeah.
You know.
I know, I hear it.
Okay.
That beeping is just the sound of the oven stopping. It's fine. It's not ready yet.
Yeah, but it's
Is
also
there
still
something
on
to
mic.
do to stop the beeping?
Beep, beep. Toot, toot. Yeah, just open. There's an off button, but I don't think it should matter. Well, let's finish our conversation. So we tend not to use ethical non-monogamy, blah, 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 or we tend not to use
I
polyamory.
said I tend
What?
to use that over polyamory.
And I think that people do that with intent. And the intent is to point out that even if you have a monogamous relationship style or you are in a monogamous relationship, non-monogamy still exists there. People are having multiple sexual partners despite, you know, that label. So I think, you know, ethical is just there to kind of point that out and distinguish, but it should be unnecessary, right?
Yeah.
Consensual versus non-consensual.
Right.
Well, yeah, that would be a better identifier to say consensual
Yeah.
non-monogamy. Or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
You know, I have,
Intentional.
and I've talked about this in previous episodes. Like, I have lots and lots and lots of conversations with unhappy married men who, you know, don't realize the fact that they're like on weirdo sex websites in the first place means that they have an intent to. That's just the oven heating up. Means that they're already committing an act of betrayal. And I always ask the question, if your partner knew that you were on this website right now, would they feel hurt?
Right.
Do they consent to being in a relationship with you knowing that you're on this website right now? Not do they consent to letting you on the website. That's not what I'm asking. Do they consent to continuing the relationship knowing that you're here right now? And
Would they?
would they? Yeah. And the answer is always like, well, no. And that's why, but I have to preserve my marriage for my kids, or like, I love my partner. I like, and you know, and oftentimes the people who are on things like Adult Friend Finder or FetLife and they're messaging people, oftentimes they're just looking because they're just venting a little bit of frustration and they're just, you know, fantasizing.
Yes, fantasy fulfillment.
And
in large part, yeah.
And for the most part, I think that's as like kind of as harmless as looking at porn.
Yeah, I agree.
However, there is an escalation to that. There is a point at which that plateaus, and I think that, you know, I have a lot of thoughts about things like sex addiction and porn addiction and things like that.
And in the old days of chat rooms, when chat rooms still existed, that's what a lot of that was a little bit of fantasy fulfillment, a little bit of venting some steam or whatever to like go talk to a lady on the other coast.
Yeah.
You know, but it seemed harmless because
it's safe and they're not
they're
going to.
12 hours away. I'm never
Right.
actually going to meet them.
I thought you were going to say they were 12.
But then you're buying a plane ticket. You know?
It is good that you finished the sentence.
12 hours away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Hannah,
Hey,
bullet point.
abstinence education and real
Now,
education.
this just sounded kind of backhanded.
I
Now-
mean, it's deserved.
Well, I'm curious
don't
because
disagree.
usually people say abstinence only education, And I wonder if he intentionally chose to say abstinence, not abstinence only.
I think he was being brief for the meme.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and saying he was brief for the meme. Yeah. I mean, should we ask Dr. Sprankle? You could tweet him. Dear Dr. Sprankle.
Sprankle.
I don't know. I think that he was putting some pepper on that one.
Okay, who's got something to say about it?
Well, I mean, I always have stuff to say, so I'm going to be quiet and let other people talk.
I do think that the sex education that I experienced was kind of a joke. It's not very helpful for anybody. I think that's what he's driving at, or at least that's how I interpreted it.
I don't think. I mean, I've been out of school for
I also have no
years,
idea what they do now,
and I don't clearly remember exactly what we were taught, but we were taught about condoms and things. I don't think we received abstinence only education. I think our education was just don't do it, but if you're gonna do it, here's how to do it more safely.
That's kind of what we had,
yeah.
Right. Hannah.
Hey.
You did not receive abstinence only, right? You received wait till marriage.
Yes. And I'm going to direct folks once again to Planned Parenthood because they break down, like, there are programs. There are over $2 billion worth of spending for abstinence only until marriage programs. Like, that is really at the heart, I think, of most of this. It's not just sex is scary and you should be aware of risks. It is also the only way to avoid risks is to get married.
And that's not true.
No, that is not true. And that creates a really scary situation for horny teenagers who are looking for information about how to be safe and instead get the message like you should make a lifelong commitment now to avoid getting into trouble. I watch that happen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've been in a relationship with Hannah for 3.5 years or something. I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've ever heard her say horny.
Yeah, I've heard her say it before.
Oh, I bet you can remember the context of that, and Hannah's I sure can't, horny. So... You want to share with the class or just keep giving me that side eye? Whatever makes you comfortable.
Yeah, so I think we all agree that bullet point is just a little jab, just a little.
Just a little.
Yeah.
But, so because those programs have come back, and they've rebranded as like sexual risk awareness programs.
I think it's
the same thing.
Bullshit.
It's easier to, kick that can down the road. That's how a lot of government-funded programs work.
Sex is a biological need. We are driven by hormones and chemicals. We are animals.
Yeah.
We want to fuck. We just like any other animal out there. Nobody gets mad at bunnies because they want to fuck, and they fuck all the time. Everybody's like, a bunny is cute.
There's a hilarious Kyle Kinane bit about exactly that.
You should look it up and send me a link so that I can link it in the show notes.
I'll see what I can do.
So, I'm not a parent, but my message for parents, listen up, is you don't get to cop out on this.
Yeah.
And just say, well, like, I don't need to support you and educate you and be a parent to you in this time of your horny life. There you go. You got 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to not have sex until you're no longer my problem. Like, please don't do that.
Nope. My kid lost his virginity in our parlor. And he told me about it. And that's a thing that happened. And he talked to me about it. And he used protection. And we talked about testing. And we talked about birth control. And we talked about the things. And anytime he had a new partner or girlfriend, he told me about it. And he tells me about it. And I feel really blessed and privileged that he feels comfortable talking to me about it. And I know it icks Max out. It icks me out too, because Lord knows I don't want to know about my child's sex life. But I feel really, 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 really happy that he trusts me to talk to me about it. Mm-hmm. I would have it no other way. So please, parents, have that relationship with your child. Have a relationship where you can have a good conversation with them. Sex is not gross or embarrassing. My mom treated sex like it was gross and shameful, and it fucked me up. So
but also talk to you graphically about sex.
Yeah, my mom was a weirdo, so yeah.
Well, from my perspective, I've never seen a
Sex?
mother and no, I've never seen it before. I don't know any of the stuff we're ever talking about. No, I've not.
You've never seen a mother before?
Motherfucker.
I've never seen a relationship between a mother and a son conversationally like that, and I'm kind of impressed by it.
Oh,
You and your son.
Thank you.
It was really strange to me at first, but it also means that he's a pretty stand-up and responsible guy.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, and it's impressive.
Thank you.
More kids should be like that.
Yeah. More parents should be like that.
More parents should be like that, and it would make more kids like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. My kid knows what consent is. And he's a man out. He's a cisgendered white male out there in the world making good choices. And that makes me happy. All right. Are we moving on to our next bullet point?
Last point.
Oh, wait. I don't think we wrapped that one up really well. So basically, abstinence education is education that teaches you not to do it until you have some kind of... Do it. Until you have some kind of partner. Real sex education teaches you that sex is a beautiful and wonderful thing between the partner that consents to have sex with you and teaches you how to do it safely. And that's important.
Sometimes it's not beautiful. Sometimes it's nasty.
Nasty.
The last bullet point is the difference between BDSM and being a shitty, abusive partner.
I feel like Dr. Sprankle took this bullet point a little personally. Because it wasn't just abusive. It was shitty abusive partner.
Yeah.
Just maybe I'm reading into that.
Well, no, he started out light, and then he ramped up the...
Dropped the hammer at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, the last couple of them did exactly that. They just escalated and escalated and escalated.
Yeah, so what we're talking about again is consent, right? And and drawing boundaries and having the conversations.
Yeah.
It's basically the same as the difference between ethical non-monogamy and cheating.
Yeah.
You're actually discussing and using your big boy words and coming to an agreement with your partner rather than just being a shitty, abusive asshole.
And I think that there is also something to be said about the fact, this is me speaking from experience and not from any point of data, but I see a lot of people in the BDSM community who come into it who have histories with trauma and abuse, who come in with very low self-esteem, and they don't have good, healthy boundaries for themselves. And so they enter into relationships and they consent to things that they later feel were abusive, but they didn't know the difference at the time. And so it was something where they could have been in that relationship for a couple of years and they wouldn't have categorized it as abusive, and then now they know, that sort of stuff. So I feel like there's a lot of mental health stuff that plays into this as well. So I think that it is important when you're dealing with any kind of relationship that you focus on making sure that you're being as healthy as you can for yourself, and that you understand how mental abuse and psychological abuse can affect you, not just physical abuse. Because when we're talking about BDSM, there's a lot of psychological stuff that happens there. There's a lot of brainwashing. There's a lot of gaslighting that can happen. And it's really, really easy to take it too far and to mess with consent and stretch consent and things like that. So just be careful and protect yourself and do your research and
and not to defend anybody. I'm certainly not defending any bad actor, but, people choose partners, and sometimes the abusive partner doesn't even think he's an abusive partner. He thinks he's doing the right thing.
Right.
He thinks he's being, a true dom.
Yeah.
But he's a, predatory, abusive asshole.
Yeah.
So be careful about the partners that you choose.
Yep.
Educate yourself, and don't ever trust that anybody else is educated themselves.
I think that the thing to think there is make sure that you're informed, enthusiastic consent is the best consent ever.
Ongoing, informed,
enthusiastic consent.
Great.
Yep, we need more of that in the world.
We think we wrapped up the Sprankle meme.
Yeah, I think that, if we didn't, I mean, I feel like I can talk about these things a little bit better thanks to Hannah looking stuff up. So, so we're going to post everything in the show notes. The show notes on our website, www.podpodcultcast.com.
That's cult with a V.
And we would really appreciate it if you would, again, take our listener survey. It's on our website, podpodcultcast.com/survey2019. And if you think about kicking $1 a month our way on our Patreon,
or more, I mean, we'll accept more.
We'll absolutely accept more. But we've got some cool stuff going on our Patreon, and you get access to exclusive podcast episodes. So we've had some feedback that people would love to hear more episodes. So that's where you can find them. Go to our Patreon. So $1, patreon.com/podpodcultcast.
Cult with a V.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week, everybody.
Share on the social media platforms.
Yeah.
Tell your friends about it. Rate and review.
Yeah.
Help us out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, people.
Bye.
Bye.
You've just heard the Pod Cultcast with your hosts Max, Hannah, Chastain, and Erik. Our theme music is Spencer Blues by Lobo Loco. Our break music is Gabbarino from YouTube. Subscribe and review on iTunes or check us out on your favorite player. Visit our website at www.podpodcultcast.com to find all of our show notes and follow us on social media. Thank you so much for listening.